Now, you might find this hard to believe, but the way you are feeding your dog is contributing to the fact that the world is on fire, the oceans are polluted, and species across the planet are decimated. I spoke to Dr. Ernie Ward, author of the book The Pet Food Revolution, to find out more.
I was really oblivious to sort of the environmental impacts in particular and suffering that pet food contributed. But about a quarter of all of the meat produced in the United States, that's chicken, that's beef, that's pork, is being fed to dogs and cats. And that's when I really woke up, right? Because a quarter of all the meat produced, about 30% of all the greenhouse gas emissions associated with meat production are due directly to pet food. That's whenever, as a vet, I said, okay, I'm a part of the problem. I'm not the hero of the story after all. I've got to do something to solve this.
And unfortunately, recent dog food trends are only making things worse.
As we've switched to more premium cuts, more human grade cuts, then that just means there's less, for humans. And this is actually driving the cost of meat up globally. As we move towards raw diets, barf diets, high grade, human grade, then that just means that those cuts aren't going to be used for human feeding.
And if your dog loves fish, unfortunately, the situation is not any better.
And same thing with fishing. These are big long line trawlers that are hauling in, thousands and thousands of fish. And sadly, in many cases, the vast majority of that is bycatch. Those are just fish that are killed because that's not what they're targeting, right? So everything else just dies. Right now, scientists estimate that 90% of the species, of sea life are gone. That's it. And, we're rapidly, just extinguishing this entirely, necessary ecosystem on our planet. And it breaks my heart.
Thankfully, there are some options available right now to reduce your dog's environmental impact.
The solutions for dogs are pretty clear. Dogs can thrive. They are omnivores, they are obligate scavengers, is the term I like to use. We know that these guys are opportunistic in what they eat. And so for dogs, I think the science, the evidence is clear and mounting that they can do very well on meat analogs. So whether this is plant-based proteins, or as we're going to see, in the book, we talk a lot about cell-based proteins and cultured meats and fermented meats. The future is really almost here when it comes to meat analogs. And you're seeing beyond burger, that's the kind of stuff that we're seeing very quickly come online.
Now, I know what you're thinking. Dogs are supposed to eat meat. That's what they're designed to eat, meat. You really need to think again.
I think that the other issue is that people think of these meats that they're feeding their dog as being the ultimate in protein. And when you look at the risk of contaminants, when you look at the risk of adulterants, so we're talking about like plastics and metals and all these other things that are really in the processing. I kind of go, wait a second, they're actually, if you look at it from a scientific perspective, some of these plant-based proteins are probably superior. And people make a lot of to do about bioavailability and digestibility. And that is a true concern. But the reality is we've done plenty of science, especially around like pea protein, for example. Dogs have a tremendous ability to digest that, no problem whatsoever. So the bioavailability of many of these plant-based proteins are equal to that of beef, or chicken.
And then the other option open to you are insect-based diets.
From a nutritional standpoint, it's perfectly fine, and we're starting to see, big companies like Purina in the United States and in Canada, they've launched an insect line of dog food. When you look at the protein makeup of insects, again, in the animal kingdom, the same 9 amino acids are preserved, which is why I like fungal proteins, because again, they're one order above plants. So they're more closely related to an animal than a plant. But regardless, when you look at those 9 amino acids, they tend to be in the same mix. Why? Because we're animals. And so insects make a really smart choice. And I think they are part of the solution.
Not ready to make such a radical switch? Well, there's still options open to you.
Even if you chose to feed your dog less meat, that is an impactful decision, because if tens of millions or hundreds of millions of pet parents around the world chose to do that, it would make a tremendous impact overnight.
And then, of course, we need to talk about weight.
Obesity is part of the solution for climate change, because we know that most people are overfeeding their dog or cat 25 to 40%. That's 25 to 40% extra meat, extra animals that are being farmed, extra farmland that's being diverted to feed those animals, to feed the pets. So this is a huge impact downstream of it. And I think that one of the other solutions is obesity.
One other simple change that you can make with your dog is how you clean up their dog poop after them. You can check out the green options in the video linked on screen now. And until next time, I'm veterinarian Dr. Alex. This is Our Pets Health, because they're family.